And that's one of the best things. But we have with us Mike Armando, and he's a great jazz blues guitarist, and his group is called In the Moment, and they should be arriving shortly. And hello, Mike, how are you?
Pretty good, Larry. How's everything going?
Good, welcome. I know you've been here before at WPKN, and some of the people you've played with have been on the air with us, too, over the years.
Yes, I think Art Frank, in particular, a great bebop drummer.
Quite often he's been on with us.
And we always had a great time with him.
Yeah, Art Frank, and...
before they made him, they broke the mold.
They don't make anybody like that no more. But he's a great guy, and he really gives us a lot of laughs.
Well, and this is also our opportunity to praise you for being a mover and a shaker in the world of jazz. And jazz needs movers and shakers, and thank you there for doing that in addition to your own music.
We need them more than ever, Mike.
Thanks. We need all the help we could get.
And you brought a CD with you.
Yes, this one was recorded up in Boston in March. And this was with Andy Golba, the bass player that's going to be here tonight, and with Ra-Kalam Bob Moses. And Bob Moses is really not much more we could say, but he'd been around a long time, played with Jaco Pastorius, Pat Metheny, and you could go on and on and on. Great drummer.
Ra-Kalam, I mean, is that what he's known as, or, likes to be addressed as, or his nickname?
Well, that's what he's addressed as now, Ra-Kalam Bob Moses.
Okay. And what are we going to be listening to from your new CD?
Okay, I don't have the liner notes in front of me, but I believe it's track 3, Belly Dancer Gone Funky.
Oh, really?
So it's it was a creation we made up right on the spot. We didn't even know how it was going to turn out, but with Bob, we create music right on the spot, and that's what we did with this. And it was very interesting because there was no sheet music, no nothing, and we just made it up as we gone along, and that's what makes music so interesting and a challenge.
Very good.
And true improvisation.
That's right.
So we'll go to that now.
Belly Dancer Gone Funky. Really? Mike Armando and his group In the Moment from his new CD that we're playing for the first time on the Larry Stoller Show on WPKN. And Mike's group, who we'll introduce in a little while, is coming in to play live. And nice to have you again, Mike. Good afternoon to you. And you have quite a history with some of the people you've played with.
Thank you. I did a lot of recording, too. We with MJA Records, we had quite a few people like Mike Stern on the label with Eddie Gomez.
Mm-hmm. That was your label, MJA?
Yes. It's been around since 1973.
You put out a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what was your total count up to?
I think I lost count.
Okay, well,
there were so many CDs
so
we put out. Some of them were never released. Some of them we still have the masters, but I think I'll release some of them someday. We still have stuff on vinyl.
Oh, really?
Back in those days of 1973.
Wow.
Well, how long did it last, MJA?
Well, it's still in existence. I've been putting my own music out on it right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about before I forget is you worked with Screaming Jay Hawkins?
Yes.
Oh, no.
I was with Screaming Jay Hawkins for 3 years, and you could write a book on some of the crazy stories that, he used to come out of the coffin. I remember we played at the Virginia Theater in Virginia, and we were doing one set, and he always held this stick in his hand with a skull called Henrietta. And what happened is there was a button. He had flash powder, and he pressed this button on the floor one time, and it never went off. And I was beside him, and I'm looking down, and he's pressing it, and something was wrong. So he goes down, and he presses it, and it blew up in his face, I remember.
Oh, jeez.
And he had his top of his hair all singed and part of his forehead.
Oh, man.
They called the ambulance that day, and there were carrying him off the stage, and all he kept screaming was, "Keep playing, keep playing." So we just went into a 12-bar blues, and we kept playing. So the audience got up; they thought this was part of the set, and they were all clapping and everything. And suddenly he got some first aid and backstage, and he came out screaming like he always does.
Oh, man!
And it was a great show.
Huh. Now, do you ever see the movie Mystery Train?
No, I don't think I
Oh, it's a wonderful Jim Jarmusch film. And he plays a hotel clerk in it. And it has a bunch of flashbacks that happen. In other words, the story is told from the perspective of 4 or 5 different people.
Yeah.
So they revisit the same scene, but the scene with Screamin' Jay as the hotel clerk.
Yeah, he had that.
It's so good. It's worth seeing over and over.
No one could sing "I Put a Spell on You" like Screaming Jay. I mean, did he have an act around that? Did he dress up a certain way?
Yeah.
And just...
he dressed up with his teeth around his neck,
right.
With his whole garb. He still came out of the coffin. But there was one secret: he would never let that coffin stay shut. He'd always put his finger on the edge. He was always afraid it was going to shut and he couldn't get out.
Oh.
And then he used to instruct us. He used to bring an axe. If that ever locks on him, just hit the coffin and break it up.
Oh.
Alan Freed was the one that got Screamin' Jay into that coffin. It was his idea.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, man. Ever the showman.
Well, it was around that period. It was in that period of time. So, and you know how famous that song or his version has gotten to be known every year by Halloween. You know, it gets played everywhere.
Yeah, I think Nina Simone did a version of it. Creedence Clearwater did a version of it.
Yeah, but they don't come close to Screaming Jay.
Oh, no,
that was for him.
No. He's
with all due respect to Nina Simone.
But when he does it, it's the original thing. You can't. No one could do it like him.
Well, I think that is your group in the process of coming in here, so maybe we should play something else from the CD and give them a little time to get the act together. I guess.
And what do we have here?
What would you like to?
Okay, you could play.
This is True Live Radio.
Yeah, you could play track 2.
Okay. And we're all set for that. And what is that?
I'm trying to think what that is. I don't have the notes in front of me.
All right, we won't put you on the spot then.
It'll be a surprise.
All right, very good.
How long have you guys been playing together?
I've known Mike for, I don't know, about 5 years or so. Rick came along fairly recently, around an hour ago.
I find that hard to believe.
Rick, by the way, I must congratulate you on deploying your drum kit in such a cramped space, and it seems not to have inhibited your creativity at all.
Yeah, thank you, Larry.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Larry, you wouldn't be aware of this, but Andy Golba is playing a bass which has 6 strings.
Yeah.
Yeah, now... Is it dumb that I've never seen such a thing, or
No, not at all.
okay, they're terribly rare then.
Yeah, they're kind of rare. Yeah, there's still a lot of 4-string players, and nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, that's still the root of bass, 4.
Now, are the low 4 strings there tuned as though it were a 4-string bass, or how does that work?
Okay, it's the middle 4, meaning the fifth. The middle 4 strings.
The middle 4
are the standard 4-string bass tunings.
Okay.
E, A, D, G.
Okay.
So on a 6th string, you get 1 lower and 1 higher string. So that makes it B is the lowest string, and then you go E, A, D, G, and then the high string C. So that gives you a broad spectrum. You can do chords, good harmonics. If you're a metal guy with distortion, you
I like the echo effect, though.
Thank you. Yeah. That's and the bass was built by this guy by the name of Clifford Roy, who's out from Long Island.
Oh.
And he's a great luthier for basses. And I got a hold of him through my teacher, Mike Frost, who's an excellent teacher and bass player as well.
And you've always played this 6-string instrument, or?
Well, I have for a few years, yeah.
A few years.
About 7 years, 8 years or so.
Very
I
nice.
mean, I played 4 and 5, but I kind of got drawn into the 6 for the range that it has.
But you're saying there's still a lot of people that play 4?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's de rigueur.
I mean, that's
Yeah, I understand.
the standard thing.
standard is. Yeah, nothing wrong with that either, man. I mean, it's the root, and there's a ton of stuff you can do on that too. I mean, this just has like a wider landing board or real estate.
So the spacing of the strings is a little further apart.
Depends how the guy builds them. I mean, this is a little closer, so it's kind of easier on the hands.
Okay.
Some guys like wider spacing. Like, for example, you got a Fender Jazz bass, which has like a traditional standard spacing for decades, as long as that bass was made for.
Okay.
So sometimes some guys build basses to that kind of spacing. Some guys like the wider spacing.
Okay. So, but do you have the luxury of ordering it up exactly as you want it?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, wonderful.
That's pretty good.
But this was nice. This is a little tighter, and it's nice, and it's you get a good grip on things, and it's you don't have to worry about spreading out your fingers as much.
Yes.
If it was wider.
Well, y'all are sounding great.
Thank you.
And you should be there, Mr. Moses. Hello.
Hello. Who's this? Is Larry?
Well, I'm Harry.
You're Harry. You called me before. All right.
I'm Harry Minot, but Larry is there as well.
Welcome, Bob. Good afternoon.
And
Good afternoon.
On WPKN. I think you know the gentlemen that are here. I think you know the gentlemen that are here.
And I think, Mike, you're live over there.
Yes, how you doing, the Ra-Kalam?
Good, Mom. We're in the middle of a recording session, but I told you I'd call, and I thought I'd give you a shout.
Oh, I really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Well, I appreciate you, too. You're a very giving, loving, supportive person, so I got to honor that,
Thank you.
I can't believe some of the people you've worked with, Bob. But Charles Mingus, Russon Roland Kirk, Jim Pepper, Larry Coryell, Gary Burton, Keith Jarrett, Steve Swallow. A lot of well-known, certainly recognizable names, Lyle Mays and Herbie Hancock. And, I mean, it just goes on and on. But one thing I was curious about, what was the Free Spirits?
Oh, well, the Free Spirits was the first, as far as I know, the first jazz rock group. So all this fusion stuff that came later and jam band stuff, I have to apologize. Sorry. We started that. But it was, actually, as far as I know, because we came together around 1965, I think. And it was with Jim Pepper. I put him in my top 4 saxophone players. Coryell, a great guitarist, and he was young and wild then and singing. Great as well, songwriting. We had Chris Hills as a genius bass player as well as a drummer. He played everything. And Columbus Baker, who played rhythm guitar, sang, and helped with writing the lyrics. Very literate person. And that was a great group. It was ahead of its time. It's kind of like, I would say, almost like Beatles-level songwriting with some serious R&B with Coryell in those days, he was kind of shredding like Hendrix with the feedback and all that stuff at the same time. He had all the jazz thing as well. And Jim Pepper, who put a kind of a Coltrane, Albert Ayler, Pharoah Sanders kind of vibe, but he was completely unique, but he had that kind of, beautiful, free playing ongoing, and so that's a very unusual combination to put in one group. And there is a recording, there's 2 recordings. One was a studio recording, which we all hated at the time, but can laugh about now. It has a few things. And then there was one that was a live gig from '67 that just came out on an English label called Sunbeam Records, called the Free Spirits Live. A good friend of ours had a tape machine going. It was a Wallensack. It was a very funky recording. It's not pristine studio recording, but the music is smoking. And anybody who want to know kind of what the Free Spirits sounded like, you could check that out. It would give you some idea.
Oh, have you made it to YouTube like everybody else has?
I don't know if that's made it to YouTube, but I have clips of the Free Spirits without sound. I have a movie that was shot but there's no sound. But
Yes,
it's an
enough, but
incredible
I'm sure the
movie of
audience
us.
is now tuned to listen to
It's
this.
very mind-blowing to see yourself when you're 18, and you're like, who is that? Who is that person? I don't recognize them at all. It's kind of like that when I see those things. But, yeah, I'm glad the music finally came out. I'm glad there's some, at least representation. I think the company is called Sunbeam Records. They're an English label. I'm sure you could get it online if people are interested, or buy the physical copies like old school guys like me. We tend to do that.
Well, I get the impression you don't have that much time, but tell me a little bit about working with Mingus and Rahsaan Roland Kirk and how long you did that.
Well, I never really worked with Mingus. I grew up with Mingus. I used to sit in with Mingus all the time, and he would come to my house and play duets with me. And, the Rahsaan I played some gigs with, but still, these were more like mentors to me, I mean, they're just among the many extraordinary people I was lucky to know. I mean, I really knew a lot of incredible people, Gil Evans and, Jocko and Mingus and Rahsaan and Harold Vick and, Jim Pepper and Sheila Jordan. I mean, I've been very lucky to just meet some great people who also happen to be, in most cases, great musicians, Mingus was something else. I mean, his music and his personality. Very tough dude, crazy in a way, but very loving to me. He didn't go easy on me, I'll tell you that, but he was sweet. I loved him too. And, I was glad to come up through that. I'm also glad to leave it behind and do something new. I'm not really thinking about this. I understand, you're interviewing me, and this is interesting. People are interested about it because they didn't have that experience of knowing these people, so they like to hear the stories and everything. I totally understand that, but I'm much more in the present right now.
One thing leads to another.
That's right.
And there you are as the thread. But the
perfect chamber music that, you couldn't write anything more beautiful, and suites, and it goes from one section to another, and people introduce melodies, and those melodies get developed and go, so, it has all the attributes of music and hopefully the soul of, all the cultural music without any of the boundaries or preconceptions or gravitational karma.
Now, it would seem to me, forgive me if I introduce an element of theology here, but the heart and soul of improvisation and the sort of approach you've just been talking about would seem to be opening up to guidance and inspiration in a way which might very well be meditative at its root. Could that be?
Oh, that's very true. It's very perceptive. A lot of my evolution and changes have to do with my spiritual practice, which is really all about transcending karma, not wallowing in your karma or being a victim of your karma. And I have to give all credit to my teacher, the guru master, who was also the greatest guitarist I've ever heard, and his name is Bapuji Tasiji Munoz. I've been knowing him for over 30 years, and that's had a lot to do with my development, and the way I'm evolving. And I have to say it's the best time of my life, the most creative time, and I'm the most excited about playing. So it's a very, very good time.
You said guru. Is that in a Hindu tradition?
Well, that's a good question, too. Tasiji is actually extremely versed in pretty much all the traditions. He can speak with great detail and knowledge about all the traditions, but he is from no tradition. He starts it. Oh. He makes it up, just like how I'm playing.
Very good.
He makes it up, but I've known him for over 30 years, and I know it's real and it's true. He lives it as well as talks it, and plays it, too. Oh. So it's in the music, it's in the writing, it's in the word. There has been no vacillation. It's been 100% since I've known him. It took me a while to be ready to open up to it because spiritual practice is hard. It's much harder than music, way harder.
It's harder than many people would realize.
And yet the payoff is a sort of magic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, much more power, much more clarity, much more appreciation, much more gratitude. much greater awareness, and I feel good.
Yeah.
Life is good.
Well, I think I'm with you on that page.
Good.
Because and you keyed there with that term gratitude. Because when something arrives in your lap from somewhere else, you kind of know it's not entirely within you. The only proper response, it would seem, would be A, humility, B, gratitude, and C, generosity. And the generosity is exemplified by your sharing of this, and you're passing it along, isn't it?
Wow, this is a much a deeper, more beautiful interview than I expected. This is great, man. Thank you, Harry. I couldn't have said it better, man. Beautiful.
So thank you for your historical service to the music, and thanks also for taking it to a whole different realm.
And keep going that way. Continue, definitely.
Oh yeah, and and I'm bringing out some of the old stuff too, because it's still beautiful, and it was part of the thread. In fact, I just found a date that had been buried for years, from 1979. How about this band? Tom Harrell, Harold Vick, who I also put in my top 4 saxophone players, Barry Rogers, Howard Johnson, Richard Perry, Joanne Brackeen, Eddie Gomez, Sammy Figueroa, Gene Lee, Chuck Loeb, and it was all music that I wrote from 1970-something. And I just brought that out, too. So I'm doing new stuff, but also bringing out some old stuff that never came out, because why not? It's good music.
Well, also, and there's a whole nother level of magic in reconnecting with something from way back, which then becomes part of the path forward.
Right, and also those players. I mean, there's several of them who are not with us now, and those that are. I mean, I could never get a band like that together these days. It'd be impossible. The schedules, the money, no way I could do it. So there was a certain magic time when I got to play. I got to play, and got these people to come in and do my music, and boy, they rocked it. Harold Vick, that's enough reason in itself just to put out the record, just to hear what he played.
Yeah.
Well, you hear this a lot, but I say never, because look at what you've done spiritually. Look at how far you've come, just the way you're describing it, and the enthusiasm and excitement and energy in your voice. So, anything's possible.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, I'd love to play with Eddie Gomez again, or Joanne Brackeen. If it should come to pass, I'd be very grateful,
Well, in eternity, you will.
Well, that's interesting, too, because I've had some dreams lately. I had a beautiful dream, where Eric Dolphy came to me in my dream, and I knew him also. He was a very good friend to me. He used to come off the bandstand and play the bass clarinet right in my face, because he knew that I loved the instrument. And in this dream, which was very vivid, we were playing music together, but it was the me of now.
Yes.
And he said something like, because he knew me as a little kid. He said, "Yeah, Bobby, you come a long way, man. You're playing some different stuff now. I never heard nothing quite like that. Yeah, Bobby, I like it." Yeah. It was a beautiful moment, but it was like I got to play with him. It felt real to me. So.
Yeah. Well, that's proof of the eternal in the here and now, and you can't beat that.
Beautiful, man. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to contact us and participate. This is great. I hope you'll, if you're ever down here, come up and hang out with us in the studio.
I'll be happy to do that. And also, I'll have Mike email me your actual street address, and I'll send you some of these CDs, a couple of old ones that I redid. And
we'll definitely make sure they get
new
heard.
Ones, so just so you have it.
We will make sure they get heard, definitely.
Whoa, even better. Mm-hmm. Well, beautiful, man. Hey, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you.
I thank you. Ra-Kalam.
Have a great rest of the show. I'm going to go back to work and do some more recording. So thank you, everybody.
Hey, good luck,
Love
and thanks
always.
for calling in.
Thanks again. Take care.
Take care, Bob.
You too. Shoot.
Oh, well, was that phenomenal?
That's fantastic. Oh man.
Okay.
Good stuff.